When most people think of cars from the 1950s, they picture the legendary Chevrolet Bel Air, the sleek Cadillac Eldorado, or maybe even a Ford Thunderbird. Big fins, chrome everywhere, and a booming post-war economy that pushed car culture into overdrive. But not every vehicle from the 1950s became an icon. Hidden beneath the spotlight were dozens of ambitious models, some ahead of their time, others doomed by poor timing, that history has quietly forgotten. Today, we're opening up the garage of America's past to uncover 10 forgotten cars of the 1950s. Some of these were racing champions, others luxury dreams, and a few, well, they'll make you wonder what designers were even thinking. 1. Kaiser Manhattan, 1953. Let's start with a car that wanted to play in the big leagues, the Kaiser Manhattan. Sleek, luxurious, and built to compete with Cadillac and Lincoln, the Manhattan had all the styling of a high-end cruiser. Kaiser even marketed it as a sophisticated car for professionals and executives. The problem? Kaiser simply didn't have the deep pockets to compete with the big three automakers. Despite its classy looks and decent performance, sales were disappointing. By the late 1950s, the Manhattan was gone, and today, very few people even remember it existed. But Kaiser wasn't the only brand that dreamed big and fell hard. 2. Hudson Hornet, 1951 to 1954. This one might surprise you. The Hudson Hornet wasn't just another car, it was a legend on the racetrack. In the early 1950s, the Hornet dominated NASCAR, thanks to its step-down design that gave it a low center of gravity. Drivers loved it, fans cheered it, and for a few short years, Hudson looked unstoppable. But racing fame didn't translate into lasting success. By 1954, Hudson merged with Nash to form American Motors, and the Hornet slowly disappeared. Today, outside of hardcore classic car fans, or Pixar's Cars movie, it's a name many people have forgotten. And if you thought that one was unusual, wait until you see this next design. 3. Studebaker Commander, 1950. The 1950 Studebaker Commander is one of the most distinctive cars of the era. Why? That bullet-nose front design. It looked like something straight out of a rocket ship, futuristic, bold, and unlike anything else on the road. But here's the thing, futuristic can also mean polarizing. While some buyers loved it, others thought it was downright strange. Studebaker took a gamble, and it didn't pay off. Sales lagged, and the car quickly faded into obscurity. Today, the Commander is remembered more as a curiosity than a classic. Some designs were too ahead of their time, but others were forgotten for very different reasons. 4. Nash Ambassador, 1950 to 1957. The Nash Ambassador had a lot going for it. Sleek airflight, styling, one of the first mass-produced cars with seat belts, and even options like air conditioning when that was still a luxury feature. Nash actually cared about safety long before it was a selling point. But here's the twist. Most Americans didn't care about safety in the 1950s. They wanted style, speed, and chrome, not seat belts. So while the Ambassador had impressive features, it never captured mass attention. When Nash merged with Hudson to form AMC, the Ambassador name carried on, but these early models quietly disappeared into history. And that wasn't the only brand to vanish completely. 5. Packard Patrician, 1950s. Packard had once been the American luxury brand, rivaling Cadillac and Lincoln. The Patrician was their flagship sedan in the 1950s, loaded with premium features and elegant styling. It was smooth, comfortable, and worthy of its name. But Packard was in serious trouble. By the mid-1950s, financial struggles and poor management led to its downfall. The Patrician may have been a fine car, but when the company collapsed, so did its memory. Today, Packard is a brand that only hardcore car historians talk about. But not all forgotten cars were about luxury. Some were small, sporty experiments. 6. Crosley Hotshot, 1950 to 1952. The Crosley Hotshot holds a unique place in history. It was America's first post-war sports car. Small, affordable, and fun to drive, it seemed like the perfect car for young enthusiasts. But there was one big problem. The American market wasn't ready for a tiny sports car. In the land of big V8s and long highways, a little roadster just didn't fit. Sales were low, Crosley folded, and the Hotshot disappeared into obscurity. Today, it's a quirky footnote in automotive history. And speaking of small cars, 7. Willys Aero, 1952 to 1955. Willys was famous for building Jeeps during World War II. But after the war, they wanted to make a family car, and the result was the Willys Aero. Compact, stylish, and affordable, the Aero actually had some promise. The problem: competition. Against giants like Ford and Chevrolet, Willys didn't stand a chance. The Aero never caught on, and by the mid-1950s, it was gone. Today, few people even know Willys built cars that weren't Jeeps. But while the Aero faded quickly, another car of the 1950s went out in style, with massive fins. 8. DeSoto Firedome, 1952 to 1959. The DeSoto Firedome looked every bit like a 1950s classic. Sleek lines, powerful V8 engine, and dramatic styling that rivaled Chrysler and Cadillac. For a brief time, DeSoto was a real contender. But Chrysler, the parent company, decided to kill the brand in 1960, and the Firedome went with it. Today, DeSoto is a forgotten name, and the Firedome is remembered only by dedicated collectors. But not every forgotten car looked flashy. Some were cheap, simple, and maybe too plain. 9. Henry J, 1950 to 1954. The Henry J was created by Kaiser as a budget-friendly car for post-war families. Affordable, small, and easy to maintain, it seemed like a good idea on paper. The problem: it looked cheap too. Buyers weren't impressed with its stripped-down design. In a decade when Americans wanted big, flashy cars, the Henry J stood out for all the wrong reasons. Sales were disappointing, and the car quickly vanished. But our final forgotten car might be the strangest of all. 10. Nash Metropolitan, 1953 to 1961. The Nash Metropolitan was a tiny little car, built in England but sold in the United States. With its compact size and cute looks, it was unlike anything else on American roads in the 1950s. But here's the twist: Americans weren't ready for such a small car. At a time when big fins and chrome ruled the highways, the Metropolitan looked out of place. It sold in modest numbers, but eventually faded away. Today, it's remembered as an oddball, a quirky little experiment in the land of giants. The 1950s gave us some of the most iconic cars in history, but it also gave us dozens of models that time has quietly erased. From the Hudson Hornet's racing dominance to the Crosley Hotshot's tiny ambitions, these forgotten cars tell us just as much about the era as the legendary ones we still celebrate. It makes you wonder, 70 years from now, which cars on the road today will people completely forget? If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden classics, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow car lovers, and subscribe for more stories from the forgotten side of automotive history.